Search online and you will find a multitude of books and blogs about anxiety and fear. At the basis of much of this advice is a therapeutic technique called cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT for short, which seeks to change people's emotions by changing their thoughts and behavior. There's a lot of research to support the efficacy of this approach in treating anxiety and fear-related problems. But before I go any further, I do want to add that sometimes there are other issues that can cause symptoms of anxiety in a person's life, such as unresolved grief or trauma or abuse, and sometimes even relationship strife. And you may need a careful analysis by a qualified professional to determine if there needs to be any other interventions. Now, the funny thing is that this whole idea of changing our thoughts to change our emotions isn't new. And in fact, I believe this ancient idea came from God. As I've often said, good science is biblical because it's rooted in truth and in the way God has designed our bodies and our lives to function. The Bible tells us in Romans 12, verse 2, do not be shaped by this world, instead be changed within by a new way of thinking. CBT is based on the thinking that it's not actually the events themselves that upset us, but it's the meaning we give them. Research shows that we all tend to respond to life through a filter, how we see ourselves and others in the world and even God. This filter develops through my experiences and the conclusions that I draw, right or wrong, from all those experiences. We all have these filters and they can lead to false beliefs. For those of us who struggle with fear, false beliefs tend to greatly elevate the dangers we perceive to be around, or we believe that we can't cope with distressing events, or we can interpret bad things that happen as God not caring. These negative and false thoughts can then trigger extremely strong feelings of fear and panic. And as a result of believing these negative thoughts, we can cause ourselves untold amounts of stress and suffering. Now, I know that God does allow pain in our life as part of growing us, but I know that God never wants us to experience pain as a result of believing lies, because He is the God of truth. It is His will for us to live in truth and to be free as a result. Yet so many of us are in bondage to lies we believe. It's because our thoughts act as filters through which we view the world and our circumstances, so believing lies can be deadly. It's our thoughts about a given situation, not the situation itself, that determines our emotional reaction to it. This is consistent with Scripture in Proverbs, which says, "For as a man thinks within himself, so he is." So on a practical level, what should you do? When you find yourself feeling anxious or afraid, try following the ABCs. A is for analyze. Ask yourself, what's triggering this feeling of anxiety or fear? What am I afraid of? Then when you've identified the concern, ask yourself, do I have any control over this? If the answer is yes, then take the time to problem solve. Note, I said problem solve, which is a very different activity than worrying. Problem solving involves evaluating a situation, coming up with concrete steps for dealing with it, and then putting that plan into action. Worrying, on the other hand, rarely leads to solutions. If the concern is solvable, start brainstorming. Make a list of all the possible solutions you can think of. Focus on the things that you have the power to change, rather than the circumstances or realities beyond your control. After you've evaluated the options, make a plan of action and start taking steps. And involving God in this problem solving usually brings great clarity and wisdom to the problem. Now, B stands for be thankful. If after analyzing your fears or worry, you recognize that you have no control over the situation, then it's time to switch gears. Keep in mind that for chronic worriers, the vast majority of what you're anxious about isn't within your control to solve. Worrying is seen as a way to predict the future, a way to prevent unpleasant surprises and control the outcome. The problem is, it doesn't work. Thinking about all the things that could go wrong doesn't make life any more predictable or keep bad things from happening. It'll only keep you from enjoying the good things you have in the present. If you've determined that you really have no concern over the situation, then it's time to do what I call thankful prayers, where all you focus on is praising and thanking God. Not only does it distract you from your worries, but it takes your mind off of your fears and onto the one who does have control over your circumstances. It also puts you in a frame of mind where you're already celebrating the good things He's done, which will remind you that He will take care of your concerns. And finally, C is for chill. This final step is really key. This is about letting go of your worries and fears and giving it all into the very capable hands of God. Then get busy distracting yourself with worship music that focuses on God's goodness and love for you. Or dance a jig, watch a funny or uplifting movie, go for a walk with a good friend, or anything else that puts your body and mind back into a positive frame of mind. Remember, it will be a daily choice to walk in the truth. Left unchecked, we'll naturally veer towards our old way of thinking. Instead of worrying about something over which you have no control, concentrate instead on what you do have control. Your power to choose what to focus on. Choose truth and choose to live your life with joy and peace.
Now there are more ways to connect with the 700 Club.